I prove to them that they're lying. The attorney calls the bank. The bank is telling their attorney that they did something that they didn't do. The attorney's apologizing to us, and she's about to lose her home because they're not stopping the sheriff's sale. So I know it sounds a lot. They're not stopping the sheriff's sale, and they're saying that they paid something that they didn't. So I'm like, what can we do?
Strong home needs a solid foundation. And when foreclosure shakes the ground, you need someone who knows how to steady it. That's where my friend AJ Willis comes in. He's the founder and CEO of Wessex Mortgage Advocates, one of New Jersey's top foreclosure consulting firms, and one of the few licensed specialists in the state of New Jersey. With more than 20 years in the game, AJ has helped countless number of families move from panic to planning with confidence. His approach is about options, clarity, and restoring power where it belongs, with the homeowner. I'm excited to have him here today on the Playbook, because when it comes to protecting your home and your future, AJ is one of the best in the business. Folks, let's get into it. All right, my man AJ, what's going on?
I'm great. How are you?
I can't complain, man. Thank you for taking your time out your schedule to meet with me. AJ, I don't know where we're going to go with this, but I know that I had to get you on this podcast, the Playbook, just so our audience knows why I was so excited to have you. You know, I've done some work with you, and I sat there and said, wow, this man has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to real estate, and not just typical flipping houses, but all these little nuances that come with, you know, real estate. And I said, I need people to see this, because one, representation matters. And then two, there's so many things that we don't understand, even before the process of, you know, building legacy through, you know, real estate acquisition. Just, hey, the basics of making sure you know how you even protect your home to begin with, right? One of the things I know, and we'll talk a little bit more about Wessex Mortgage Advocates, is, I think, people of color are about 1.8 to 3 times more likely to experience a foreclosure than their white counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so all of this, I was like, well, I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't have a script, but I said, I got to get this guy on and just to talk. So AJ, you know, I want to hear your journey. But what led you to starting Wessex Mortgage Advocates, and what is Wessex Mortgage Advocates?
Besides a hard word to say, if I could do it all over again, I'd come up with an easier name.
It does sound very British, though, right?
Oh, all right. So let me tell you the story of the name.
Yeah.
I was always told, if you start a company, don't name it after yourself. It's limiting. So you don't call yourself Willis Financial or something like that. It's limited. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching a show called The Vikings. It was on A&E at the time. Now it's on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And King Alfred was King Alfred of Wessex. My real name is Alfred. I'm like, how can I name this after myself without naming it after myself?
Wow. So in all the years I've known you, I did not know. Oh, that's a great story. So tell us a little bit about your history with real estate, because, you know, from the intro, 20 years of experience, and I know you firsthand. So, like, how do we get into this? And you've been able to do some pretty amazing things. How do you build this pathway where a lot of people like you aren't in the circles that you travel with?
It started really with a client named Mr. Yancey. And what happened is, I had spent after college, I had worked I got hired as a negotiator for a real estate investment firm. All I did was negotiate all their deals with homeowners, with banks, short sales, notes. They bought a lot of stuff, and I did all the negotiations.
Oh, wait a minute. I gotta stop you. How do you do that? How do you go from college straight to negotiations? Like, did you major in negotiations, or you just had a knack?
I knew a gentleman that said, I'm working with a real estate investment company, and he brought me in. And they put me in the negotiation seat, and I just ended up being good at it.
Okay.
In doing that, I started to make connections with the banks that I was negotiating with, the foreclosing attorneys, the homeowners, and I got to see how everyone thought and maneuvered. So I got to see what the banks did and the games they played, for lack of a better term. I got to see what the investors wanted to do. I got to see how the homeowner felt. And so one time I had a client named Mr. Yancey, and he came in to sell his house to the company. And I'm sitting down about to sign the contract, and he goes, "To be honest, I don't want to sell my house. I want to keep it." So I said, "Well, let me see what I could do." So I'll go speak to the owners. I knew it probably wasn't going to work, but I said, "Listen, this guy doesn't want to sell his house. He wants to keep it." And I'm like, "That's not what we do." So I went back and I said, listen, Mr. Yancey, that's not what we do here. And the look in his face was just defeat, panic, sadness. And I was just like, I know what not being able to fight for yourself feels like. I had a situation when I was a teenager, and I'm like, I've got to do something for this man. So I said, "Listen, I need you to leave the office." I said, "Because I just want to make sure that 3-day right of rescission is done. Leave the office. Tell him you're not ready to sell." I said, "I need you to call me later. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the bank and see what I can do to help you keep it." And what happened is I started talking to him about what was possible. I helped him keep it. He kept it for like another 5 or 7 years or something, and then sold it. But I was just like, I'm onto something here. I was able to help him out. And then that's what started me saying, I can do this. Like I can help people out.
So you know why that's so important? Because it's an intimidating process, right? It's intimidating, and it seems like one of the things to your key to success to getting here was, one, you were likable, you were ready, meaning that even if you weren't ready, you made yourself ready and took advantage of opportunities, and you were able to build relationships, and you had strong communication skills, right? Because that's how you were able to almost maneuver and develop. And our people, that's something we don't teach in our community as much. Yes. And I'm not trying to make this exclusively about our community at all, because this is inclusive. But one of the things that I'm walking away from is I remember moments in my own life where it was you were up against the big boy, the big bully, whether it was a bank, a government, law enforcement, whatever it was. And so like you're almost pulling on my heartstrings right now, right? So fast forward. Actually, I want to see what's the most difficult case you worked in. I wasn't prepared to ask this question, but give our audience, the listener, a case where they're like, "Holy shoot, I would have never thought in my wildest dreams."
Yeah, there's 2 of them. Let me think which one I want to tell.
Tell both.
All right.
Why not? Yeah.
All right. So I had a client in North Brunswick, New Jersey. He had been foreclosed on. He lost his home.
What does foreclosure mean?
Okay. Foreclosure means foreclosure is a lawsuit. So when you're in foreclosure, that means the bank has filed a lawsuit against you to get the house back so that they can get paid back the money they lent you. So I get a mortgage. The bank says, "I'm going to lend you the money on this house. You get the deed, you own it, but I get the mortgage. We're married. If you stop paying me, I'm going to take the house from you and sell it myself to get the money back." Foreclosure is the process, the lawsuit, in order to get that done.
You know what? This is why I'm glad I have you. And I wanted you to go back to your story. Never in my decades, my close to 5 decades of existence, have I ever heard someone say the foreclosure is a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Wow. So this is the stuff our people need to hear. But continue with the story. It's New Brunswick.
Let me just say one thing so people understand. Foreclosure is a process. It's not a one thing event. Once you're foreclosed on, that's a 1-day event. That happens in an hour. But to get there, from the time you stop paying to get to that point, that's the foreclosure process. And there's time to do things to protect yourself, to shore yourself up. So my story. This gentleman had already lost his property, and he was just like, "What can we do?" So I said, "Well, let me look over your paperwork." And I noticed that something about the foreclosure didn't quite seem right. I can't explain how I know these things. It's just from seeing this paperwork so much.
Mm-hmm.
I looked through, I'm like, this doesn't seem right. So I went to an attorney and a title company, and I said, look, I think this is wrong. And they're like, we agree with you that it probably could have been wrong, but this attorney that you're talking about going after, because I said, listen, I think we got a fight here to get this guy's house back. They're like, they're too big to fail. Like, we don't think that you're going to win that case. So I went to another attorney because although we help people, sometimes you need a lot of times you need an attorney. So we work with them. So this attorney said, okay, I think the case you've developed here makes sense. We're going to go after it. So what happened is I noticed that the property was foreclosed on during COVID, but there was a COVID mandate saying that you're not supposed to get foreclosed on. But this foreclosure was for taxes, not for the mortgage. But I'm like, there's still an argument to be made there. And as I'm talking to the gentleman, I'm realizing he has mental health issues, and so does his brother. They're the only two living in the house. I said, do you understand anything that you're reading? Do you understand this paperwork at all?
Yeah.
He said, I don't. I said, okay, now we got two things. You don't understand. If we can prove that, and we can prove that maybe this foreclosure shouldn't have happened, we have something. So long story short, we got a letter from his doctor about his mental issues presented in court. The attorney was livid, attacked me, called me all kind of names in the lawsuit. But what happened is we got that gentleman's house back. The judge reversed the foreclosure, gave him his house back for a period of time because it was foreclosed, so that he could sell the house instead of losing it. That gentleman was able to sell his house, make a good amount of money, and buy another property cash, and now he's fine living where he is.
Sure. Wow, that's very powerful.
So that was difficult because we had to fight an attorney who, was throwing the book at me personally.
So wait a minute. Are you telling me that when we go talk about foreclosure, the foreclosure is the start of a legal lawsuit, and the foreclosed on is when it ends? So you're really telling me there's that window between it when it's filed and when we go into a room and finish this process. That's my window that I have a chance to protect myself or to maybe possibly keep my property, or like the story you told us, maybe come out of this with some type of financial numeration and not lose my life in this process, right? You had a second story, and I don't want to stop you from sharing it because the first one so please.
Yeah. So I had a woman in North Plainfield. She had called a mortgage company and said, I need to do a refinance on the home. Mortgage guy pulled her credit, said, there's no way. You're in foreclosure. I can't get you a mortgage. I can't get you a mortgage. He said, I only know one guy who may be able to help you. So he got in contact with me. I spoke to the woman, and I said, we're going over her bills. And because that's what we do. We go over the client's financials to see what's possible. And I said, you have $600 in PSE&G. That's electric over here in New Jersey, gas and electric. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. What's going on? She said, we can't get the house warm. Like, it doesn't stay warm at all. I said, let me send a contractor over there. So I sent my contractor over there. He said the house has no insulation. The house has no insulation. It has bad windows, bad doors. She bought it from a flipper who didn't do the right work. The house will never get warm. It's over.
Oh, wow.
So I told her, I said, look, here's the problem. That bill is never going to come down. The only option you have is to put the work that it costs to fix it, and that's thousands of dollars. Yeah. I said, you have to sell because you can't keep this up. After we agreed, or she agreed, we said, you're going to need a short sale. There's no equity in your home either. You just bought it from a flipper. There's no money.
You can't go back to the flipper? Isn't there paper the flipper should have signed off, or is it is what it is, right? All right. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, now you got a lawsuit. She'd have to pay money to get this guy.
Yeah.
So as we're working on the short sale, which takes some time sometimes, we're looking at the market tick up. This is another one that happened during COVID. And I'm like, this house is going up in value, up in value, up in value. I called her up. I said, I don't think you need a short sale anymore. I think now you can sell this thing and make money. So she said, okay. So I said, just put the house on the market. Put the house on the market. She was able to sell the house and walk away with like $40,000, right?
Wow.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing. This is why this is difficult.
Uh-huh.
The day before, now, a week before it closes, she calls me and says, my bank just sold my loan to another lender.
Oh my gosh.
And I told my assistant, I said, we may have a problem.
Of
And she
course.
said, what do you mean? I said, when they sell it to another lender, bogus fees tend to show up. All of a sudden, all these fees just show up. So sure enough, we asked for the payoff from this new lender, and it's like $100,000 more, maybe $70,000 more, something ridiculous. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. We call and ask why. They say we paid off the other loan. I said, no, you didn't, because I'm talking to the other bank. You didn't pay off. You didn't pay off the other mortgage. Yes, we did. Long story short, they're saying that they paid it off. We have to get on the phone with the foreclosing attorney who represents them. I proved to them that they're lying. The attorney calls the bank. The bank is telling their attorney that they did something that they didn't do. The attorney's apologizing to us, and she's about to lose her home because they're not stopping the sheriff's sale. So I know it sounds a lot. They're not stopping the sheriff's sale, and they're saying that they paid something that they didn't. So I'm like, what can we do? I go to my other attorney. He's just like, we have to do an order to show cause. The only thing is it's going to cost $5,000 for us to do it. I'm like, I'll just write up the case because I know what's going on. I'll send her down there and I'll just be there with her so that when she goes to the judge, she can present it. And then he was just like, okay. So I went down there, and the long story short is we were able to prove that that bank did not do what they said they were going to do. And we were able to get her to close. But this is like a week before closing and 2 weeks before a sheriff's sale. And she's crying because she gets a $70,000 bill that she knows was not.
You know what? You know what is the most powerful thing of what you're saying right now to me? Is as you're explaining it, I'm putting myself in her shoes. And I'm like, you know how emotionally draining and defeating that is, and how you just want to give up. And God knows the amount of things that you've seen. But that's one of the components of what you do that I appreciate. How do you balance the emotions of these people? Because people don't realize when you lose your home, you're not trying to lose your home. You probably poured all your money into your home. This is the end of the world. How do you balance that? Because I'll share my own little story. Without exposing myself too much. I specifically hired you for myself just to deal with someone I knew was emotional. Like, I don't have the skills that you have. Right? I need you to be. So how do you deal with that? Like, what do you see?
I don't know. It's I have a knack to break the emotional attachment with logic and just say, my job is to help you make the best financial decision you can, not a rush panic decision you may later regret. And when I outline it and say, this is what we're dealing with, most people can accept it. Not all can. But yeah, it's draining sometimes, but it's what I know.
Yeah.
It's what I do.
Got you. So I'll ask you a silly question, but do you love what you do?
I do. I love it.
Right.
Like, it never feels like work.
Yeah. Yeah. And you go ahead.
And it's, it can get tough sometimes. I'm in a very unique space, which has its pros, but has its cons. I'm like I'm not saying I'm one of a kind. I'm not saying no one else does what I do, but I don't know of anyone else that really does it. So, like I said, there's pros and cons. But yes, it can be emotional, but I have a knack to break through that so that they can see things logically. I have a client right now that on the way here that I was talking to they were going back and forth and in analysis paralysis, and I'm like, you got to get out.
Yeah, and the truth is, and I like what the scenarios that you explained, because we're not selling fairy tales here. In some cases, you won't be able to keep your house, but we're able to make sure you walk out of this, still standing on your 2 feet. The first case, yeah. What'd you say?
With dignity.
Yeah.
You leave. You have to leave. You leave on your own terms. You made the decision for yourself, not someone else making the decision for you. Not the sheriff. People don't understand. When you get foreclosed on, they will evict you. The sheriff is showing up. And when they show up and say you got to leave, you have to leave. You don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want your neighbors looking at you and saying what's going on. You don't want that. A lot of times we are able to help people keep. Times that they're not able to, but they're still able to make the decision on their terms, as opposed to waiting for someone to knock on the door and say, here's the opportunity I have for you. And you don't really know if it's good for you or not.
Wow. Speak to that, right? Because there's people that prey on individuals that are in foreclosure. And I think that's important for us to make that distinction. Some people
got seminars on it. They got seminars on how to take people's homes out who are in foreclosure.
Right. And you're saying, and it's important for people to see the distinction. You're saying, no, I'm not trying to prey on you. I'm here at this, the word advocate. I'm doing everything I can to help you keep your home, but more importantly, keep your dignity. And you know what? Saying that it's empowering, because again, the stories you told me, I got emotional. Like, dang, mental health issues. I can't read these documents, and I've seen a foreclosure document. It's like 150 pages that can't read through all this garbage. Yeah. Right? And then attorneys are expensive. So paying an attorney just to read it, and chances are if you're in foreclosure, it's not because you have a bunch of money laying around that you can go pay for attorneys to go do some of these things, right?
Correct.
So you need someone that's going to fight for the little person in most cases. And obviously not everyone who forecloses on is for financial reasons. It could just be, hey, I forgot I had the property and I'm sitting on cash, right? Yeah. I don't know. So,
or another one is, a very common one, especially in our community. It kills me. The parents pass. They leave the house with the kids. The kids don't pay the mortgage, or if there's no mortgage on it, don't pay the taxes. And now they're taking the house for taxes. You just lost your whole inheritance because you just didn't know what to do.
But in that case, if you've never owned a home, how would you know? My first investment property, and thank God I bought it with my boy who already had like 10 properties. But I had no idea of the county tax, and I never. He's the one that walked me through it. Make sure you pay the taxes, because I was managing the administrative side of our business because he had the construction background. And so let's talk about that. How can estate attorneys or young people who are in line for, possibly an inheritance of how do they start preparing themselves so that they don't go to the foreclosure process? If you can speak to that.
Of course. So the first thing is, and again, I know our community, a lot of times people are not doing their wills. Even my dad is financially, sound. For years, he wouldn't do a will. He was like in his 80, maybe 79 before he did a will. I don't know, they felt bad luck or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like life insurance. Don't buy life insurance on kids. Right. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Go ahead.
So the first thing is hopefully your parents do a will. And this is the way I like to explain it to people. When your parents die, there's two options if they're leaving you property. If they have a will, it's easily done. They pass on, everything is divided according to what they say, it's easy. If they don't have a will, then the state gets involved. And the state is going to make sure they get paid. And they're going to make sure that they check everybody. And is there a cousin out there? If there's an aunt, if there's an uncle, who needs to get paid out of this? If there's a will, there's no fighting. So get the will. But if not, and your family passes, now you have to do probate. You have to pay a probate attorney, or you can do it yourself, pro se, but I wouldn't suggest it. You have to get a bond. You have to make sure that there's no other heirs. And then you need to make sure that things get paid. Pay the taxes. Here's a little thing, little tip. Keep paying the mortgage. The bank's not checking if the person died, so just keep paying the mortgage.
Here's a little tip. Keep paying the mortgage.
Just keep paying it, and you'll be fine.
But you know what? I'll say this, and it wasn't until you just said it. I was like, yo, wow. But I'm older now and I'm more astute. But I think if I would have inherited the property in my late 29, in my late 20s, early 30s, I probably would have said, oh, here's a house. Right. And maybe us as parents, in addition to the will, because I think even if you have a will, you still go to probate, a revocable trust, which allows you to have some control as the trustee beneficiary. But maybe parents, we need to start having conversations with our kids and saying, hey, um, this is what goes on with buying a house. So, what are some other common? I want to get into what we should be concerned about now, because we're in a new political climate. But you brought us something that I wanted to ask. What are some of the common things you see? You mentioned the inheritance with the foreclosure process. What are some of the common things that you've seen that? And I don't want to make this about the banks, because I know you still got relationships, but that are mishaps that people don't realize. Hey, when you even bought the property, this wasn't done right. You have an opportunity now to retain this, if you could think of that.
So let me say this. I know earlier I said that when banks do something wrong, I don't know if they did it wrong through negligence or they did it wrong because there's a lot of paperwork in foreclosure and it just fell through the cracks. I'm not here to judge that.
Sure.
I'm just saying that things happen and things go wrong. So what's a common thing that goes wrong? Okay, here's one. When your lender sells a loan to another lender, you'll get a thing in the mail saying, oh, you were with Chase, now you're with Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
The new bank has to honor the exact laws and guidelines of that mortgage as it was originated. But sometimes they don't. No. Unless you go back and say, what are the original guidelines? You might not know. They might have some extra fees. Is it by intentional, by accident? I don't know. But that's something that does happen.
Got you. I got you. And me as the borrower, I won't know what I'm looking at sifting through these documents. And chances are, I probably don't know where my original documents are.
Correct. And don't even understand what they meant. When you sign, you just sign the mortgage. You really look? No.
No. If I did look, I didn't know what I was reading. Right. And now I have to ask myself, did my attorney even really read this? I don't know.
Right. And so that's one thing that can happen. Another thing is, like, for instance, a homeowner is in foreclosure and they're calling their lender to get like a loan modification. And the bank will say, well, send us your documents, your W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements. They send it. Then the person calls back a couple weeks later and the bank's like, oh, we didn't get it. Huh? Well, I emailed it to you. Oh, well, we didn't get it. So you send it again. And they'll say, okay, you sent it, but you missed one thing. And next thing you know, it's dragging on. And there's people who get caught up in this. I had a client that literally was crying. Like, she wrote the bank, what else do you want? I've given it to you so many times. So these things can drag out. Is the bank intentionally doing that? I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is these things happen. So that is a very, very common one when the bank just get the documents right.
Yeah. So
and the person gets dragged in foreclosure and they're going to someone saying, look what's happening, but most people aren't listening. I think that's the difference between us and other people who maybe help people in foreclosure. I take what the homeowner says at face value. I don't assume that you're broke and you don't know what you're talking about. I don't assume that the bank was right. I assume that what you tell me is legit and I'm going to check it. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the person is trying to fight this moral fight. Like, they didn't, how could they foreclose on me? And they didn't dot this T and dot this I. Okay, that's not going to hold up in court. Gotcha. I get it. You're mad at the bank, but the issue is you. But sometimes the issue is the lender, and you can use that to buy time or restructure things.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful what you said. Because again, 3 decades now, I've started off in real estate, moved on to investments, but I'm hearing you, and I think this is powerful because it speaks to what you do. I'm reliving all the emotions that I had when I felt powerless or defeated and I didn't know how to talk and no one was going to listen, right? Because I didn't speak their language. So it makes it even stresses upon me more why having you, and I did have you in my corner, it changes the game, right? So I'm speaking from also experience of working with you. So, with the time we have, I think we have about 10 minutes left. I want to go into today.
I wanted to add one other thing.
Go ahead.
Two things I wanted to add.
Yeah.
One thing that I wanted to talk about is that it's not as uncommon as people think that there are foreclosure issues. I know they said a lot of people think, well, I know that was a foreclosure crisis of 2007.
Yeah.
But there is a bank. I'm not going to say the name of the bank, and I'm going to read something to you because I'm not going to try to remember it.
Go ahead.
But this bank in 2024 faced Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau action for illegal foreclosure practices, including failing to provide complete information about loss mitigation options, which means you call them and say, can I get a loan modification? And they tell you no, or they don't tell you all their options. That's something we do. What are all your options? And overcharging for private mortgage insurance and late fees. The company was ordered to pay $3 million in consumer redress and a $2 million penalty. This is 2024.
Boy, that's last year. Yeah.
Right. It's crazy how often it happens. So I just wanted to put that out there. Number two,
it's important. But translate that. I understand what you read, but translate that, right? So if I'm taking what you said, as recently as last year, a bank, right, was not, I'm calling and say, hey, what can we do? They're basically telling me there's nothing you can do, and then I'm gonna charge you more and more. I'm gonna squeeze everything I can out of this lemon. Until then, and this is the part now I'm getting angry, I get the house back anyway from you. So I'm gonna squeeze you to get the house back. And if you try to play with me and give me my money, I'm gonna get more money from you. Wow, that's powerful.
So they're increasing their fees, but the most important part is you're calling, asking, what option do I have? And they're not telling you all the options.
And they're obligated by law.
Correct.
Right? And you don't know if they're obligated by law, but even if they are, what can you do? Right. This is where we go to our advocate, right? Our mortgage advocate. So what's going on now, with our economy, with real estate, I remember when Obama was in office, and what's it called, the Frank Dobbs Act, right? Which really which made it harder on the investment firms, the security firms, but it was to protect consumers. And then we went through Biden, and I'm not following what under the Trump administration, what's happening in regards to real estate or some consumer protections. But I know we were talking offline, and I wanted to dive into that a little bit. So what's the things we should be thinking about?
Sure. So the biggest issue right now, as it relates to foreclosure, is the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau, which helped prosecute this bank right that we just mentioned, has been stripped of their teeth. They're like a dog with no teeth now, because Trump came in and took all the power from the CFPB, Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau. So now, when we're fighting a foreclosure, if it needs to be fought, it needs to be done on the state level, because the federal level is not as strong anymore. So the point of that is, if a person is facing foreclosure, it is important to get help early. The earlier you get help, the more options you have. The longer you wait, the less options you have. And we can't go to the federal level as much because it's not as strong anymore.
So wait a minute, because now you're making me ask more questions, right? You have Fannie Mae. I know a lot of people purchase their homes with federally backed loans. And so when it goes to foreclosure, those type of federally backed loans are the ones that we would go in the federal level for? Like, what do you mean state and federal?
All right, good question. Let's put Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans aside.
Yeah.
Usually you don't have many problems with them because they're government regulated. Conventional loans are different. Conventional loans are private, and that is when things can go wrong.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying they can't make some mistakes. It's usually conventional. So what I'm saying is, if there is a problem with your loan, we used to be able to file a complaint with the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau, and that's one avenue we would take. And the banks say, will they care as much now? I don't know.
I see what you're saying. So basically now I'm putting myself in, the homeowner's position, what you're saying is if you started a foreclosure, thanks to you, now if the bank filed a lawsuit against me to reclaim the property, right? I haven't been foreclosed on yet. You see, I'm learning, right? I'm a quick learner. You're a good teacher, right? I had options. Some of it was actually look at the paperwork, look at the proceedings, look at, some level of the humane. Can I understand what I signed? And then there were actual legal entities in place, the Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau, my state, I guess whatever state agency, to now, hey, these are the options and we're going to pursue all options. And I would assume the federal one was a very powerful one if you're saying it has no teeth now. And what you're saying now is you just lost a big player in terms of defending yourself. And so, folks, you're basically cautioning us, if you have a family member, even if it's you or a parent, don't hide the envelope. Address it early, because the political climate is really going to affect you in this regard. All right, so that's a great tip. Any other tips you want to leave with our listeners before we let you go?
No, I think that's it. Just reach out to me if you're in the situation and we can help.
How can I reach out? Well, you're licensed in the state of New Jersey. Any other places you're licensed?
No.
This is a global podcast, brother, man. Come on.
But not all states have a licensing requirement. And I can help and have clients that I'm working with in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware. So really anywhere I can help. And we work with a lot of attorneys. So sometimes the real estate attorney is like, I'm not really sure what to do. And I'll speak to them, walk them through it. Maybe one of our other attorneys will help. But, if you need help, reach out so that you get the help you need.
Okay. So how do we reach out? How do we find you? Give us your social media handles. To be honest with you, you're a great educator, because I've learned a lot just from this call. Like, how do I find you where I can get more of these little nuggets and tidbits and share them with friends? So
I'm new to social media, I admit, for the business, but my Instagram is Wessex.ma. That's Instagram. Facebook,
WESSEX.ma. Got you. I'm gonna follow you today from Black Dad Unfiltered. Go ahead.
Awesome. Facebook, Wessex Mortgage Advocates. LinkedIn, AJ Willis, CEO, Wessex Mortgage Advocates. I think that's it. And then the office number is 201-862-5057. And
AJ, my
email,
man.
My email, ajwillis@wessexma.com.
I appreciate you, brother. I thoroughly enjoyed this call. I walked away from this very similar to when I first spoke to you about this process. It's so intricate, it's so daunting, and you're good at just breaking it down in ways that make sense, digest, and I feel empowered, and I hope our listeners feel empowered. So, folks, thanks again. It was a pleasure to have my friend, my colleague, AJ on the call with us. I'm Coach Rod, and this was the Playbook, where real stories meet real strategy. If this episode gave you insight or fuel, hit the follow button and drop a comment. Share it, follow us, and help build the next generation of leaders. Look out for new episodes on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, because every dream needs a game plan. Again, AJ, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you.
I'm Coach Rod. Thanks for tuning in to the Playbook. If you got value from this episode, like, comment, and subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Catch you next time.